Week 9 is finished up, and that means that it is time to dive into our Dynasty waiver wires to see if there are any players available that could be valuable to our actual starting lineup or our rosters through future trades and gaining some value. So let's get right into the video. So like I say every single week, I pull actual data from real Dynasty leagues, from safe leagues, run through myfantasyleague.com to find actual rostership data on players that could be available in the majority of Dynasty leagues out there to help guide me to identify those players for you guys. So any rostership data or percentages that I reference in this video are from that actual data set. So let's get started, because there are a couple players that could be on your Dynasty waiver wires that you can pick up this week. The first of which being a repeat from either a week or two ago, but PJ Walker, the current backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, although he might not be the backup quarterback for that much longer, is still available in almost 40% of Dynasty leagues out there. A large majority of those from my roster set still being in Superflex leagues. So if he is available and you are in a Superflex league, I definitely would pick him up, because Sam Darnold has looked utterly atrocious. I mean, it is utterly amazing how quickly the NFL can change, how quickly Sam Darnold has reverted back to his New York Jets form after leading the league in rushing touchdowns. He had 10 total touchdowns, 5 passing and 5 on the ground through the first 4 weeks of the season. However, in the 5 games since, he has only thrown 2 total touchdowns and has actually thrown 8 interceptions in that same amount of stretch, including 2 games with 3 interceptions, including just one this past week. So it is not looking good for the Carolina Panthers. They obviously need to look elsewhere and start looking towards the 2022 draft, or, start going back into some Deshaun Watson negotiations at the end of the year. But I think it's a realistic possibility that they just start looking away from Sam Darnold as early as in season this year and can just start playing PJ Walker just to see kind of what they have in him. Maybe get him some more reps as well to get him more comfortable in the NFL, because remember, he really didn't play all that much in the NFL back when he was with the Indianapolis Colts, then went to the XFL, shined out there, was basically the XFL MVP, and then has since been the backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. So he doesn't really have all that much NFL experience. And if he is going to become the starting quarterback for the Panthers to end out the year, even for, just a couple games, that could be valuable for you in your Superflex leagues to potentially either trade away or actually play. So if he's available in your Superflex leagues, definitely pick him up. I probably wouldn't be all that worried about him in one quarterback leagues, but this is really telling how utterly garbage Sam Darnold has been, that I think PJ Walker could see starting lineup potential here very, very soon for the Carolina Panthers. Next player I want to highlight is Eno Benjamin, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, who is now the RB2 on this team behind James Conner, with the news that Chase Edmonds' MRI is potentially going to say that he has a high ankle sprain, which is going to land him on the injured reserve list. So he's going to miss at minimum 3 games over the next 3 weeks. So that plugs in now Eno Benjamin as the RB2, of course James Conner as the RB1. But we saw in this past week, whenever Chase Edmonds left on the first play of the game, we kind of saw how the Cardinals would treat the 2 running backs. Of course, James Conner was the alpha. He was the RB1. He had over 20 carries, an additional 5 receptions. But Eno Benjamin also had double-digit touches as well, including a really, really nice 21-yard touchdown run. And Benjamin was a draft season favorite for a lot of people. Unfortunately, he did fall to the 7th round, so basically undrafted, and has been buried on the Arizona Cardinals depth chart ever since. But this could be a realistic opportunity for Eno Benjamin to see meaningful snaps and be valuable for fantasy football. And we also know that while Chase Edmonds is missing for the next potential 3 or more weeks, James Conner has not been the poster child of health over his career either. So I really think there is actually a realistic possibility that Eno Benjamin could be a RB1 on this team for maybe a week, 2 weeks, something like that. And we know that this backfield and this team and the running backs on the Arizona Cardinals have been super valuable for fantasy football. And it's just unfortunately been split between James Conner and Chase Edmonds. But if that all kind of comes into one and it's just Eno Benjamin maybe for 1 game, that could be really, really valuable as a spot start, especially as we continue to lose running backs or as bye weeks continue to go on as we're pushing towards the fantasy playoffs. So if you get 1 free RB2 week off of the waiver wire from Eno Benjamin potentially, that's really, really valuable, and you need to be able to go out and pick up Eno Benjamin just in case that happens. The last player I really want to talk about is Joshua Kelley, the running back for the LA Chargers as well, who's available in nearly 30% of Dynasty leagues. I've done this a couple times this year where I have talked about or highlighted players that seem like they are the clear-cut handcuff to another starting running back in a very valuable backfield. I talked about this with Jeremy McNichols. And so this next one here for Joshua Kelley is, to me, I think the clear-cut backup to Austin Ekeler and would be the next man up if anything were to happen to Austin Ekeler. And while nothing's really happened to him and he hasn't really missed any significant time, he has been dinged up here and there. It seems like every single week something new occurs on Austin Ekeler's body and the injury report for him, that while it hasn't really been big injuries yet that has caused him to miss significant portions of games or any games whatsoever this year, that is a realistic possibility as we continue to go on through the rest of the year, that potentially if Austin Ekeler were to miss a game or two, I think Joshua Kelley would be the next man up in this Chargers backfield. And being rostered in only 70% of the Dynasty leagues that I am pulling from is pretty significant to me, because that tells me that there is a clear-cut handcuff, in my opinion, out there in a lot of Dynasty leagues that you could be able to pick up for free, since Austin Ekeler obviously managed to get through the entire rest of this game and is going to be a top 5 running back probably for the remainder of the year. So people aren't really looking or expecting him to get hurt. And Joshua Kelley didn't do anything in this game either anyway. So you could be able to just beat everybody to the waiver wire and pick up Joshua Kelley for dirt cheap or potentially free and just stash him and see what happens if Austin Ekeler were to get hurt. It's the same thing that I talked about with Jeremy McNichols earlier in the year. So if you're able to capitalize on picking up McNichols early for potentially free, you know, you have a really good chance at a flex spot or an RB2 spot start fill-in with McNichols. Now we have that opportunity, I think, with Joshua Kelley for the remainder of the year as well. And I do write a waiver wire piece for dynastyleaguefootball.com that does drop on Monday and does highlight more players than what I highlighted in this video. So if you want access to that, you can become a DLF Premium subscriber, gain access to this article with more players a day earlier, and kind of beat the competition a little bit on that, plus all the other awesome features that we offer over at dynastyleaguefootball.com, including more daily and weekly articles from the amazing DLF writing team, rankings, ADP, tools, the trade analyzer and trade finder, amazing things to help you guys win your Dynasty championships, especially as we are moving through now, passing the halfway point in this season, moving towards building towards the fantasy playoffs, and then hopefully winning you guys some fantasy championships. And if you would like to see a recap of all of the games from this past week in a very Dynasty centered focus, then you can click on here and watch this video. And with that all being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch y'all later.